Maya's inbuilt tools for retiming are pretty decent. In this video, I'll go over 3 methods you can use even later on in the process and some tips and tricks to help you retime your shots. Hope it's helpful and please subscribe. So I have a simple scene where the box is going up and down. And if I wanted to make this quicker or slower, the quickest way to do that is to select the timeline and drag this red bar back and forth like this. And you can see in the graph editor the timing is changing. This is pretty quick and fine, but it's not the most accurate method. It's not one I use that much, but it is an option for you if you want to make quick changes. Of course, you can see though that the values of these curves are now on decimals, so 20.3. So make sure whenever you do any timing changes, you select all your keys and go edit and then snap. This applies to all the methods that I'm going to talk about today. So the method I use, I guess, the most often within Maya is the simple selection box method. So you select this button here in the graph editor, which basically allows you to drag different parts of the animation, either in time, so back and forth, or also if I was to click on the translation Y, I can then do this again, and I can drag it up in sort of value as well. So right now it's going to be bigger. You see it's bigger. If I drag this back down again, it'll be smaller, like that. So this is quite good for making changes to individual curves or maybe a individual controller. It's not quite as effective when doing big changes to your entire animation though, because you just have less control. So the final method I use that is good for making bigger changes is using the Retime Markers, which is this button here. So I select the button first, and I can add in my markers. So I click one at the start, and then I've got one at the end here, and then I put one maybe in sections that I want to keep the same. So you think about sections that are separate from each other. So maybe you have a section of a character talking, and then you're standing still. So you want to make sure that you separate your animation into parts that just make sense. So we have these horizontal bars at the top here, and then we have these vertical ones in the middle, which are going to do slightly different things. So basically we can shift these bars, and if I wanted to maybe keep the animation the same in one section, I can select the top bar, these horizontal ones, and I can shift them in. So you see how the timing between these two parts here is staying the same, but the middle box is changing. So I can, shift this back and forth, and it's pretty easy to keep, it's quite easy to visually see what's happening to your curve. I can also maybe do the opposite. I can take these vertical bars, I can shift this one in, which is taking this section and making it quicker, but it's also at the cost of making this slower. So you won't have to change the number of frames your animation takes, but it will just make one part quicker and one part faster. So I use these methods basically for all my big changes. Now, the one thing to keep in mind that if you do this big shift here, of course, you have to then select your keys, and it's probably good practice to move it back to frame 1. And of course, you've got to go to edit and then snap, because you have to make sure everything is on one key. So let's go into a different scene, and I'll show you how I use these methods in a real example. So this is a shot I'm working on, which is almost done, but just for animation purposes or demonstration purposes, I'm going to just do some changes to this so you can see how I would go about making real life changes to our shots. So one of the notes I actually got on this was the jump feels too slow when he lands, this section here when he lands. So I've actually already made some changes, but let's make it even faster just to showcase how I would do that. So the first thing we want to do is select the controllers that basically are being affected, which in this case is kind of everything, right? So I'm going to select all the controllers, which can be a bit slow, but for this rig especially, it's quite a big rig. But you have to make sure if you're making changes to your shot, you got to select everything, right? Let's go to the graph editor. Now, as you can see, it's quite messy because there's lots of stuff going on, but that's okay. We don't need to worry about what the curves are doing. We just want to worry about the sections we're changing. So I want to find the section where he lands. So I think I'm going to use the Retime Markers for this one, the Retime Marker tool. So I'm going to put one at the start because I know that's the start of the animation, right? And I think up until about this point, it's fine. So about frame 88, I'm going to put another marker here. I don't want to change this section. And then go drop, and then come in, and then I think from the raw as well, this raw is okay. So I put a section in here, and then of course I can go to the end, and you can add a section at the end. So I just want to shift this middle section, this part in the middle. I want to make it faster. So I need to go in, and I need to select this bar at the top, the horizontal bar, because I want to keep this bit the same, right? I'm going to move this in like this. So let's make it really, really exaggerated, just so you can see what's going on. And the camera won't be changing at this point, so the camera will look weird. But just, you can do this simultaneously, but I haven't changed the camera yet. In fact, let's just go to perspective mode to make it even more clear. So here, and then he's going really fast. And there we go. You see how that's changed? Cool. The next thing to do, of course, if you remember from the previous section, is you've got to snap these keys. Now, before I do that, I want to go to one controller to show you what's going to happen. So if I go to, let's say, the flight controller. Now, oh, by the way, click the Q on your keyboard to deselect the retime markers. So if you click it again, they've disappeared. Now click Q to get rid of it. Now, this section is here, right? So these look okay, but if I go to one of the values, you can see it's going to be, yeah, look at the graph, the timeline down here, it's 112.41, right? So basically what you want to do is, let's go back to all the controllers. Select everything here. You want to select all the keys in that section you moved. Now, it doesn't have to be accurate, but make a selection box over the area that you changed, which is for me about this. Now, depending on how many keys you take and how much you've changed, this could take a while, and it can be quite destructive. Again, it can be quite destructive to your animation. So I'll let you know what I mean in a minute. But let's do edit and snap. Give it a second to work. Should have done by now. Yep, cool. Let's go back to this flight control. Actually, let's play the animation first. See what's changed. So it looks okay, right? Not too bad. Let's go back to the curve and let's have a look. Yeah, you see, for example, here, where it snapped it, this tangent here slightly changed. So you will have to go and make some small changes. And, you know, you have to make sure your curves are still kind of working as you intended. So this is the part of the animation process, which is a little bit tedious. But I mean, I can probably do this key to us. But that's the method you would do to change your animation, you know, when you want to make big changes to the timing. I hope that was useful. Please check out my other videos and please subscribe to the channel. Cheers and have a good day. Happy animating.